Hello everyone! Welcome to English class! We hope that you're ready as we are to start learning and have fun. Always remember, in English, you're the best! Welcome students! I hope everyone's doing great! Welcome to the third week of our lesson. Expand the content of an outline using notes from primary and secondary sources. Take notes of our objectives. First, understand the difference between primary and secondary sources. Second, use notes from primary and secondary sources. And third, expand the content of an outline. Before we begin with our discussion, let us have a quick review. Read the paragraph. Identify the pattern of idea development used. Write your answer on the line and then encircle the signal words that help you in the identification. Listen as I read the first paragraph. Filipinos are faced with a grave issue on population. Garbage disposal is not organized, lakes die, factories emit smoke without care. I am writing this article to encourage you to segregate your garbage at home and when you are outside, to throw your trash in the proper trash cans. Can you identify the pattern of idea development and the signal words used? Here is the second paragraph. Dogs are in many ways like human beings. When we like people, we smile at them. Dogs wag their tails to express their likings for others. When we enjoy ourselves, we laugh. In the same way, when I play with dog Tagdi and he is having a wonderful time, he gives short, happy barks, and of course, I know he is laughing. Now, what is the pattern of idea development and the signal words used? Now for our first activity, brainstorm on the types of documents you think would fit together. Write your answers in the box. Let's analyze. Primary sources might include diaries, letters, eyewitness testimonies, official reports, home videos, or speeches. While secondary sources might include textbooks, essays, scholarly articles, biographies, or encyclopedias. Now come to think of it, let's answer the following questions. First, what kind of information is provided by the primary source? Is it different from the information provided by the secondary source? How? Second, which type of source do students think provides the most accurate information? Why? Now let's define what is a primary source. A primary source is anything that gives you direct evidence about the people, events, or phenomena that you are researching. Primary source will usually be the main objects of your analysis. If you are researching the past, you cannot directly access it yourself. So you need primary sources that were produced at the time by participants or witnesses. Example, letters, photographs, or newspapers. If you are researching something current, your primary sources can either be qualitative or quantitative data that you collect yourself. Example, through interviews, surveys, and experiments, or sources produced by people directly involved in the topic. Example, official documents or media text. Here are the examples of primary sources. Research field, history, letters and diaries, photographs and video footage, official documents and records, physical objects. Arts and literature, novels and poems, paintings and art installations, films and performances. Communication and social studies, interview transcripts, recordings of speeches, newspapers and magazines, social media posts. Law and politics, court records, legal text, and government documents. Sciences, empirical studies, and statistical data. Secondary sources. What is a secondary source? A secondary source is anything that describes, interprets, evaluates, or analyzes information from primary sources. Common examples include books, articles and documentaries that synthesize information on a topic, synopsis and description of artistic works, encyclopedias and textbooks that summarize information and ideas, reviews and essays that evaluate or interpret something. When you cite a secondary source, it's usually not to analyze it directly. Instead, you'll probably test its arguments against new evidence or use its ideas to help formulate your own. Now for our second activity, determine whether the following are primary or secondary sources. Write the letter indicating whether the item is P, primary source, or S, secondary source. For each one, explain your reasoning in complete sentences. Number 1. The story your grandfather tells you about his experience during the Korean War. Number 2. A letter was written by George Washington to his mother about the latest development in the Revolutionary War. Number 3. The Diary of Anne Frank, the published diary of a teenage girl who experiences the Holocaust firsthand. Number 4. Your world history textbook or an encyclopedia. Number 5. Your high school diploma. This time, you will be given time to read the news article entitled Gender Advocates Call for More Inclusive COVID-19 Vaccine Programs. Expand the content of an outline using notes from primary document. Remember to consider all aspects of the document, including the motivations of the author and the historical context in which it was created. The article can be read in wordpress.com. After reading the article, let's answer the following questions. What kind of document is it? Who created it? What do we know about the author? When was it created? Where was it created? Why do you think it was created? Does the document's author show bias at any point? Where? Cite specific passages. Who was the intended audience for this document? What do we know about the audience? How does this document make you feel? List 3 things you learned from this document. List 3 questions the document raises. Where might you find the answers to these questions? For our Activity 3, evaluate your textbooks by conducting further research on a topic covered by the book using primary and secondary sources. Do they agree with the interpretation of event provided by the textbook? Why or why not? Remember, a primary source provides a first-hand account of events recorded during or shortly after the events described occurred. A secondary source of information is one that was created later by someone who did not experience firsthand or participate in the events. Now for our final activity, determine if something can be used as a primary or secondary source in your research outline. There are some simple questions you can ask yourself. Write primary if the question is for primary sources, and write secondary if the question is for secondary sources. Number 1. Does this source come from someone directly involved in the events I'm studying? Number 2. Does this source come from another researcher? Number 3. Am I interested in analyzing the source itself? Number 4. Am I only using it for background information? And number 5. Does the source provide original information? Does it comment upon information from other sources? For your reflection, write your significant learning today in your e-journal. Thank you for joining today's class. I hope that you learned something from our discussion. See you next meeting!